would like to welcome all of you to this segment of Brand Talk. Brand Talk is not an interview. It is intended as a conversation to extend the platform to senior executives of companies to come and talk about their experience with building their own brands. And today, we have an entrepreneur and a founder of a company that really inspired a lot of people in the industry. And as a result, she received awards in recognition of her unique way of building a brand while keeping a strong emphasis on corporate social responsibility as it relates to the local communities of the weavers that make that and create these beautiful hammocks. The CEO is Josefina Urzo. She is a co-founder and entrepreneur that inspired the development of Hammock Boutique. Hammock Boutique is based in the Yucatan, Mexico. So we have a very interesting perspective, not only in brand building, but brand building as it relates to an emerging economy, as in the Mexican experience here, and how the passion about the brand, not only to market top quality experience for the customers, but also to illuminate the lives of the weavers that make that product in the local community. So she is going to talk about that aspect and how the brand for her was also a connector back to the community, in addition to connecting the brand with worldwide customers. She recently received an award, and she's going to tell us more about this beautiful award. So it's terrific to have Josefina with us. Thank you, Josefina, and welcome to the George Washington University School of Business. I guess we want to start this conversation by asking you a fundamental question. For an entrepreneur, being driven by innovation and creativity is core to the value creation. What are the core values that you installed in the building of basically the Hammock Boutique brand? What are these core values, and how did that inspire you to build the brand and to market the brand not only in Mexico, but also moving, I guess, across the border north to the US market, Canadian market, and then expanding to Europe, and hopefully, I guess the sky is the limit for you now. I'm sure we're looking into a worldwide recognition of your brand. So tell us about the story and how all it started with you and Hammock Boutique.
Thank you. Of course, Professor. I'm excited to be here, and thank you for helping us get to this award. It was thrilling to be at Times Square in a 30th floor at the Thomson Reuters building and be recognized with global brands such as Stella Artois and MasterCard, Accenture, Emerson, Ben & Jerry's, amongst other brands.
I understand. So they picked only 12.
They picked
worldwide.
only 12.
Yeah.
And
you were one of the 12.
Correct.
Wow.
And one of my friends told me to think that these brands typically have millions of dollars to build and to create their message and communicate it and be recognized amongst them, where being an entrepreneur, you're limited with resources and with staff, and to be able to be put at the same level, it was incredible. The global message we're recognized for is our concept of doing business, which is called the SHE Network, Sustainable Holistic Empowerment Network. And it speaks a lot about how we see running a business. And I think it's a different vision on caring not only to generate profits, which are fundamental to run a business sustainably, but to do more than that. And that's where the holistic part comes in. We don't only care to generate jobs for our weavers, but we care to doing something else beyond, because we realize that getting income was not teaching them that having Coca-Cola for breakfast is not ideal, or letting them know the importance for their children to finish elementary education. And so these other aspects that will help them improve their overall living conditions were not there only with the sustainable income. And so then we decided, well, if we are able to empower them in other ways where they're not only concerned about what they're going to eat tomorrow, and they can think of other things, and then that lift them completely out of the poverty line level where some of them were living. And then the network is all the institutions that make this possible. It is the Hammock Boutique, that is a profitable company. It is our nonprofit arm, Fundación Cielo, and it is the communities where they live and the over 880 families that we have in the network. And so this symbiotic relationship amongst all of these elements, I think, was what makes us different, and what I think it makes us much more impactful in our overall goal, which is not only creating the most beautiful, highest quality hammocks, but also we're telling a story, we're supporting a family, and we're doing above and beyond just generating profits, but trying to have an impact in our community and give back to where we're from and where we grew up, and telling everybody around the world about the beauty of this craftsmanship in the Yucatan.
Thank you. In your view, what are the key differentiators that sets the Hammock Boutique products or brands apart from any other competing brand, locally, regionally, and potentially globally?
I think the key selling proposition of our hammocks is that it's not just a hammock. Okay. There is a story behind that hammock. Okay. There is a family. There is a tradition that goes back hundreds of years. And there is this hammock made with love because it took weeks to make, and is the highest quality possible. We use the best yarn to make it. We care for the packaging. We care for the quality control of it. And then we are able, on the more practical differentiations, we're able to reach anywhere in the world. You would be surprised where we ship hammocks sometimes, being from a product from Mexico, but we ship to Mongolia, we ship to many parts of Asia, in spite of the fact that there are some hammocks made in Asia, and we compete against those. They're very cared for in Europe, and obviously the US is a very important market for us. But what is interesting is that 80% of our production goes outside Mexico. And so from the get-go, we had to think big, and we had to think with different mindsets, meaning that we need to tailor different markets. The Japanese market is very different from the American market and from the European market, and they care about different things, different colors, different designs. And I think that's part of what sets us apart, that we've been able to come up, transform a traditional handcraft into a product that tailors different markets, that adds value by decorating fringes that we add to some of our products, by using the right colors for the right market. I think that has set us apart.
Tell us, how did you enter the U.S. market? And oftentimes, your brand as strong as the partnerships that you build around that brand. Who are some of the key partners that you aligned yourself with in order to enhance your penetration of the U.S. market?
I think the partnership we started with Lowe's.
Okay, tell us about that.
Sure. We've started 10 years ago, and it started all in Mexico, and we realized that in order to get into the U.S. market, penetrate better, we needed to set up shop in the U.S. Okay. And that's why 5 years ago we registered a company in the U.S. and started taking advantage of all the benefits that it brought with that to be able to expand. And one of those is the partnership with Lowe's. We are featured under supplier diversity team, and that means that they make an effort to buy from smaller vendors. Where they would typically not do that, and 98% of whatever is sold at Lowe's comes from China typically. They were looking to suppliers elsewhere, smaller suppliers, And that's where we came into place. And we convinced them of starting out small. Instead of trying to put us in 2,000 stores, we only started in 150. And those that were selected, they had the highest hammock sales. And that has given us so much visibility in the U.S. market. And we prove as well that we had a great product, that it was very marketable. And the plan is to continue to expand when we are able to increase our manufacturing capacity, which is one of our projects right now, so that we can expand to more stores. And like that, we also enter some other large U.S. platforms, online platforms like Overstock. We're also on Amazon, and we also have our own website. But we realize of the challenge that it takes to bring traffic to your own website, and how expensive it can be when you're competing with a Walmart or a Wayfair or even Amazon. And so we decided that it was better to just be in those large marketplaces and have our own website, but not to try to drive all the traffic to our own website.
Okay. So what's the percentage of your sales that come from online versus brick and mortar?
It is 40-60. 40% online, 60% brick and mortar.
Wow.
Because most
So
of our
the
sales
brick
are
and mortar is still the dominant
correct.
channel.
Correct.
Okay.
So most of our sales that are online happen in the U.S. However, for our customers in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Europe, and many in U.S. and Canada are brick and mortar stores.
And what type of stores are these?
So say you
Like-
go to the French market in Louisiana, there's a
Okay.
store called Latin Hands, and they sell my hammocks.
Okay.
So you travel to Vancouver in Canada, there is a store that only sells hammocks and sell my
In
hammocks.
Vancouver?
In Vancouver. You travel to Madrid or Barcelona, and there are one store in each place owned by different gentlemen that sell my hammocks. Same thing in Japan, Australia, New Zealand. I have two very large wholesalers that distribute there, and I have a very large wholesaler in Denmark that distributes to most of the Scandinavian countries and Eastern Europe.
What's the volume of sales, if we may ask?
We sell around 45,000 pieces a year, and if you think that each one takes about 2 weeks to process, sometimes take 1 month, because they're made in the spare time of the weavers. Only a handful of them would use this as a full-time job and actually work on the hammock 8 hours. Most of them just weave on their free time. They cook, they weave, they watch soap operas, they weave. They make dinner, they weave, and so it's a sporadic.
Flex hours.
Yes, they
Yeah.
do flex hours. That's correct. And so the production is very limited, and the
Production capacity
is very limited. It already takes a very human effort to manage this over 880 families.
How do you control for quality, considering that different families with different probably circumstances facing them every day? How do you control for quality? Who's your chief quality controller, for example?
That's a great question. It's actually one of our bottlenecks, because